My name is Mike Wisniewski, and I'm a member, part-time community member of the LA Catholic Worker. And I first got involved in 1981. During the beginning phases of my entrance into the Catholic Worker in the 1980s, the LA Catholic Worker was part of a movement that was protesting the U.S. policy in Central America. And so I would join, it was a coalition of group, the LA Catholic Worker being in one of them. It was called the Wednesday Morning Coalition, and every Wednesday morning we would gather at the steps of the Federal Building, or gather at La Placita down the street and then process from there to the Federal Building. And every week there would be a civil disobedience action where people would chain themselves to the door or block the doorway and get arrested for trespassing. So that was very memorable because that was my introduction to civil resistance and resistance to U.S. imperial policy.
I was attracted to the Catholic Worker because of its kind of prophetic orientation. Someone once said of Dorothy Day, the founders of the Catholic Worker, that she comforted the afflicted and afflicted the comfortable. So Dorothy not only served the poorest of the poor, but she tried to address the structural injustices and problems of her era that caused such terrible poverty in the most wealthy country in the world.
We have a vigil that began right after 9/11, where we vigil against the war 6 days a week, Monday through Saturday. And one of those days on Wednesday, we have a long procession, very slow procession around the Federal Complex in downtown LA. And at the end of that process, or during that process, we stop at the front of the building and read off the names of the U.S. military personnel killed either in Iraq or Afghanistan. And we also do other types of resistance work, which would include going up to Vandenberg Air Force Base, and sometimes also out to the Nevada test site, nuclear test site, outside of Las Vegas.
One of the first things that we did here in LA was we protested at the what's called the Arms Bazaar, and I got 6 months for blocking the entrance to the Anaheim Convention Center. But in the meantime, we had collected 1,000 signatures, and while I was in jail, hundreds of people wrote to the judge, and ultimately the judge let us out after 2 months and apologized to us. And we said, well, we would be coming back next year, and he said, I don't think so. And he pulls out this letter from the Arms Bazaar people saying because of all the protests, they would be not coming back next year. So then they said that they were going to go to Germany, and we tracked them down, and they went to Wiesbaden, Germany, and we happened to have friends in Germany, and they put on a big protest, and the next year they didn't come back to Germany, and then the next year they went to the Panama Canal Zone, and we weren't really able to follow them there.
During the first Gulf War in the early 90s, 91, and the LA Catholic Worker had a presence. Every Friday we would demonstrate, have a protest at the Federal Building downtown, and that developed into a No Blood for Oil campaign, and members of the community would either pour blood or oil on the steps of the Federal Building. And I wasn't a part of that action myself, getting arrested. Part of my job at the LA Catholic Worker is to be a videographer or a photographer, because there were 3 weeks in a row, or three resistance efforts in a row that we had down there where people got arrested. I got arrested. Because I got arrested and get arrested. Against were arrested, getting arrested, I got arrested. I got arrested.
You needed a dependable workforce, so you created a drug war. Got one in orange. Now on the backs of the poor.
officially ended, although it really never ended. But when it was officially ended, there were so-called victory parades across the country. And here in the LA area, in Hollywood, there was a victory parade scheduled, and they were anticipating well over 1 million people on the parade route, which would have been going up Sunset Boulevard and coming down Hollywood Boulevard. And so members of this community, myself included, decided that we had to have a presence there and to symbolically stop that parade and name it for the idolatry that it was. And I was, although there were 4 of us who stepped out onto the street and literally stopped the parade. 3 of my companions were arrested, but I wasn't. And I went back a second time and stopped the parade a second time. And this was in front, how we stopped is we walked in front of the so-called military honor guard and just knelt down, and we had banners, and we spread across the street, and the military guard stopped in its tracks as they watched us. I think the most important thing is, as Christians, we have to realize is Jesus never cooperated with imperial power. He resisted it. And in the story of the Transfiguration, God's voice in the clouds calls us to listen to him. This is my beloved Son, and listen to him. And so it's a mandate from God herself to listen to what Jesus says. And so what does Jesus say is to pick up your cross and follow me. And what does the cross represent? It represents resistance. We have to say no to everything that imperial violence is about.